Okay, we're recording. Welcome to the KubeBuilder controller runtime community meeting. Today is April 9th. I'm Eric Straczynski. I will be hosting today. So currently there are no agenda items. Chris, you seem to be adding one right now. So while you're doing that, I'll just give a quick update on plugins work in KubeBuilder. So I'm sure as many of you are aware, I've talked about this once or twice. There's an effort to abstract the KubeBuilder CLI into very convenient plugins that can be imported by any binary and run to scaffold and manage a Go controller project. That work is at least the first phase of it, for which there is a design doc in the KubeBuilder repo, is nearing completion. And I will be posting a PR to master from the feature branch sometime today. There is one more thing that needs discussion, but it's something that can be done alongside the PR itself to master. So after this, I will post a link in the agenda to that PR and also in the Kubernetes operator Slack channel. So if you get a chance, please take a look through that, test it out, give feedback. That'd be great. Any questions on that? Great. Okay. Chris, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, put in this pull request a couple days ago. Thanks, David, I think, for taking a look at it so far. I poked a couple other folks. If you could just give a review of that. I'm looking for feedback right now, specifically on the UX of the implementation, because it differs slightly from what we talked about in the actual implementation. Do you mind clicking on that from your screen, or yeah, just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about? But basically, there's two different paths for implementing this that we discussed during the design review. In essence, what I'm looking for is some feedback on the user experience for implementing component config, retrieving an option struct for configuring the manager, whether that be updating or creating a new one from scratch and then mutating it after the fact. Yeah, so I'm looking for feedback on that, on the user experience, and then, yeah, if anybody's interested.
Because we have time, can you give a quick overview of why this is important?
Yeah, so this is moving us towards following the community standards around management for components within Kubernetes. So using component config style configurations for controllers built out of controller runtime. So this takes the current implementation of creating a new manager where you pass in an options struct into it and provides a way to have a common interface that that configurations can get pulled out of. Yeah, just makes it easier to configure controllers using files instead of flags, holistically. Right,
and there's a common format for these config files?
Yeah, so things like within at the end, like the last parameter passed into this function, that controller v1 alpha 1, that default controller config, you'll notice in there that standardizes the a type that you can load in for pulling out options out of a file, and it has if you go under files, you can actually see what that struct looks like. But it basically references a component base style or component base struct to pull out the leader election configuration. So those are standardized around the same ones that we use for kubelet and kube API server and the scheduler. So yeah.
That's great. Okay. Yeah, I will certainly be taking a look at this ASAP.
Cool, thank you.
I have one question around that. So there are some options that can be changed during runtime, and there will always be some options that cannot. does the component config somehow differentiate among these? Or is the idea to just have it loaded once during startup and then never reload it again?
Currently, it's have it loaded once during startup and then never reloaded again. Since the manager doesn't take in a pointer to options, I don't know how those parameters would get changed anyways.
Okay, that answers the question.
I think long term we could look into having this be able to be like the dynamic kubelet config, but there's obviously some things that would need to be reworked out. Like how would you reconfigure a client? It just wouldn't really work. So, but we could look into it after the fact, I think.
Yeah, if I remember the kubelet approach correctly, they simply kill themselves or stop the kubelet, which will then make the manager restart it again, systemd in most cases, and then it gets the new config, which is pretty simple, pretty stupid, but also pretty good working, I think.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that would be a fun addition to this. My worry is overcomplicating the first implementation, especially because controller authors might not realize that would be the case if we supported that out of the box as like a default flow. So.
Yeah, makes sense.
Also, you'll notice in there that the design and implementation differ from like this pull request 118 that you're looking at. It differs slightly from there. So the plan is like I want the feedback on the user experience, and then before this pull request gets accepted, I'll go and update the actual design doc to implement it. In case somebody calls that out, just want to make sure.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
No problem. If there's nothing else, well, there is nothing else on the agenda. So if there are no other questions or comments, concerns, anything, I'll give you another 43 minutes back for your day.
So this might not be the right channel to ask this, but I'm trying to actually gather some information that I don't know the underlying origins of, but I've been looking at a lot of implementations of controllers where scheme is configured and added to, and a lot of the like base client Go implementations all use util runtime must, and which causes things to panic if the like add to scheme doesn't work. I'm not sure if I'm explaining this properly, but it's interesting because I'm looking in KubeBuilder, and out of box it doesn't do anything. It just ignores all errors, and I'm curious what the implementation is there. There's a pull request I have open in KubeBuilder specifically to add this to the scaffold, and I'm curious if it was like a specific reason we don't do that.
That there is no error handling?
Yeah, I'll put in the pull request just so you can see what I mean.
Okay. I could be remembering incorrectly, but I remember digging into the code of some add to scheme functions, and sometimes there is no error returned, and it's just because that's a convention of that function.
Gotcha.
And so I think that's why either people have gotten used to or purposefully ignore the error. This was a while ago though, so I could be wrong.
Cool. Yeah, in the agenda, I just dropped in a link to the other pull request that I have open. Yeah, mostly just saw that going across other projects and figured we could have a conversation about it.
Sure. I think it's appropriate to check errors if there are actual errors being returned. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's easy to disagree with that.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was like some long-term history behind some things causing errors, like if it was when you were registering like conversion webhooks or anything like that, like that we're not doing within KubeBuilder at least.
Right.
So okay, cool.
So I don't know about the historical thinking, but the whole scheme is a map underneath. And unless someone has changed that within the last 6 months or something, it doesn't have any protection against concurrent additions. So if you add things concurrently, it will panic anyway. So maybe people thought, yeah, there's one case where it panics already, so it doesn't matter if we add another one. Not sure.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, because I saw the only case that I could get it to panic was basically if I re-registered 2 schemes or registered like a CRD that had the same name as a common type in or a standard GVK in Kubernetes.
Mhm.
Yeah, this seems reasonable to me. I would say maybe we want to just ask Sully if he has a chance or if they have a chance to make sure that there isn't any history here. But yeah, I don't see why we wouldn't do this.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I direct messaged Soli last night, so I'll see if I can get a response from them. Thank you.
No problem. Anything else? Great. Well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody have a good one.